You're sprinting through the final level of a first-person shooter. You're out of ammo, your screen is blood red. The enemy's lining up a headshot. And somehow, just before their bullet finds your skull, they miss. You survive, you clutch the win. It feels amazing. You might think you've earned it entirely through skill. But maybe, just maybe, the game gave you a little help. Quietly and invisibly. Games cheat. Not to sabotage you, but to save you. Not to frustrate, but to support. These cheats aren't bugs, they aren't exploits. They are design decisions, small nudges that make impossible feel just barely possible. And often they are what turn a good game into a great one. Let's explore how games bend the rules in your favor, and why that's not only okay, but absolutely essential to great game design. To understand why games cheat for players, we first need to understand how players engage with challenge. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi coined the term flow, a state of mind where you're fully immersed in what you're doing. Time disappears, distractions fade. It's you and the task, pure focus. But flow only happens when the difficulty is just right. Too easy and you're bored. Too hard and you're overwhelmed. Great games chase this sweet spot obsessively. But here's the problem. Players are unpredictable. We all bring different skill levels, mindsets and attention spans. What's thrilling to one player might be infuriating to another. So instead of sticking to static difficulty settings, modern games often build systems that adapt in real time. They don't just set the rules at the start, they shift them dynamically as you play. That's where invisible help comes in. These systems don't hand you victory, they guide you toward it. They give you space to struggle, but not enough to drown. One of the most powerful tools for this kind of invisible support is something called dynamic difficulty adjustment, or short DDA. At its core, DDA is a system that watches how you're doing and then quietly tweaks the game in response. If you're taking too much damage, it might make enemies a little slower. If you're breathing through, it subtly raises the stakes. Take Resident Evil 4 for example. Behind the scenes, the game constantly monitors how many shots you're landing, how much damage you're taking, how often you die. If you're struggling, you might find more ammo or weaker enemies. If you're excelling, it dials up the intensity. It's never obvious, but that's the point. But the most fascinating version of this idea is in Left 4 Dead, and it has a name: the AI Director. The AI Director acts like an invisible film director. It doesn't just spawn enemies randomly, it paces the experience. Let's break that down real quick. The game tracks your team's stress levels based on things like how much damage you've taken, how fast you're moving, or how many enemies are nearby. Then it decides, should it give you a break or should it ramp up the tension with a horde or special infected. It choreographs peaks and valleys, creating a dramatic rhythm of quiet moments followed by chaos. Every playthrough feels different. Not because the map changes, but because the director tailors the emotional arc of the mission. It's not just about surviving, it's about feeling like you're in a movie, and the director makes sure the pacing always hits. But let's switch the genres real quick to racing games. One of the oldest tricks in the book is something called rubber banding. I'm sure every one of you has heard it at one point in their lives. It's a system where the game compresses the distance between racers so nobody gets too far ahead or too far behind. In other words, if you're winning, the AI speeds up. If you're losing, it slows down. It keeps the race close even if there's a massive skill gap. Mario Kart is famous for this. You fall behind, the game gives you powerful items like the bullet bill or lightning bolt. Get too far ahead, say hello to the blue shell.
This
is it fair? Technically no, but it feels exciting at least. In a party game where casual players and pros are racing together, that chaos keeps everyone engaged. Nobody's completely out of the running and nobody's safe. Other games use the same principle but more subtly. Burnout 3, for example, doesn't want a realistic race, it wants a Hollywood car chase. So the AI cars are designed to always be close even if you crash multiple times. The result? You get a dramatic, edge-of-your-seat finish every time. It's not about simulating reality, it's about engineering the drama. But let's take a moment. So far we've seen how games tweak challenge levels, pace tensions and manufacture excitement. But what ties it all together is this. Game design is not just math, it's not just mechanics, it's performance. Imagine a magician who never loses, but always lets you believe you caught him slipping. That's what good games do. They hide the rigging, they tip the scales just enough to feel like luck or skill. It's not deception, it's design. Let's talk about shooters. Ever land a headshot in Call of Duty and wonder how you pulled it off? Maybe you were just that good, or maybe the game helped you a little bit. Many shooters include aim assist, especially on consoles. It slows your crosshair as it nears an enemy, sometimes even subtly pulling toward the target. It's not cheating, it's compensation for analog sticks being very imprecise. But it goes deeper. Games also use hitbox generosity. A hitbox is the invisible shape around a character that registers the damage. But sometimes that hitbox is slightly larger than what you see. It means near misses become hits. It feels good and you probably won't ever notice.
So what you see is what you get.
Half-Life 2 took it even further. Developers at Valve wanted to feel like they are survived by the skin of their teeth. So sometimes enemies would intentionally miss or stop attacking just before they'd finish you off. You feel lucky, you feel skilled, but it was all choreographed. Let's jump literally into platformers. These games live and die by precision, but the best ones don't demand perfection, they fake it. Ever heard of Coyote Time? It's named after Wile E. Coyote from Looney Tunes. You know how he runs off a cliff and hangs in the air for a second before falling? It's basically the same idea. In platformers, Coyote Time gives you a tiny grace period. Normally just a few frames after you leave a platform where the game still lets you jump, even though technically you're in the air. Another common trick is jump buffering. If you press jump just before landing, the game will queue up the input and execute it when you touch the ground. These mechanics don't make the game easier, they make your intent matter more than your precision. And it also feels very smooth. As Celeste co-developer Noel Berry put it, the difference between challenge and frustration is only a few frames. And those frames matter more than you think. Now let's talk about enemies. Sometimes the smartest thing AI can do is play dumb. Take Alien Isolation. The terrifying xenomorph is driven by two brains. One knows your exact location, and the other acts on limited information pretending it doesn't know. That way it feels like it's hunting you, but never becomes unfair. The result? Constant dread, but always a chance to escape. In stealth games like Dishonored, for example, guards follow predictable patrols and often give up searching too early. Why, you might ask? Because if the AI were too smart, it would find you instantly. And that would be the end of fun. Arcane Studios' Harvey Smith once said, "We care more about the player feeling clever than the guard feeling smart." The moment you hear,
Must have been the wind.
you are not annoyed, you're relieved. You got away, and that's the point. But some games don't just soften your mistakes, they script them into the story. In Uncharted 2 you might miss a jump, only to be saved by a collapsing ledge or a cinematic handhold. In Tomb Raider, fail a quicktime event and the game gives you another shot, often with slow time or dramatic flair. Game director Amy Hennig called this controlled chaos. It's not about punishing failure, it's about preserving momentum. You still feel tension, you still feel stakes, but the game won't let you derail the experience completely. It's like having a stunt double who makes you look cool, even when you fall. But what happens when the illusion cracks? Sometimes these systems we've talked about overstep. Rubber banding becomes obvious, AI becomes predictable, aim assist feels like autoplay. Games like Aliens Colonial Marines were criticized for AI that didn't feel smart or helpful. It just felt broken. Some Assassin's Creed titles have made parkour so automated that players feel like passengers, not participants. When the balance tips too far, players don't feel empowered, they feel manipulated. Even the best magic trick loses its charm when the trapdoor creaks open. Games are often praised for fairness, but more often than not, fairness is an illusion, and that illusion is part of the magic. The best games cheat constantly. They fudge hitboxes, they delay enemies, they save you from mistakes. Not to deceive you, but to support you. To keep the fantasy alive. Think back to your favorite gaming moments. That boss you beat with 1 HP, that clutch shot you did, that miraculous escape. Maybe you were good, but maybe the game helped. Just a little. And honestly, that's more than okay. Because the best games know exactly when to let you win. Please subscribe my channel.